Hi, welcome. I'm Shay Coker, Managing Director at Savills, based in Miami. Today I'm with Jess Johnson, who is the head of Cross-Border Tenant Advisory at Savills, and one of the most well-connected guys I know. Thanks for joining me, Jess.
Shay, it's great to be with you and have this time. Thank you.
I brought you on because you contributed to a recent Savills research piece called State of the Occupier that gives some really good overviews of the tenant situations in various parts of the world. Could you start us out by just giving us a high-level overview of the global markets?
Absolutely, Shay. Shay, we're sourcing daily information from our tenant representation experts across the globe in key markets that our clients care about. We're passing those on as quickly as we can by posting them onto our State of the Occupier Updates blog. Generally, as you can imagine, the world is dealing with this pandemic in different ways, and every region, every country is at a slightly different place. Even as Middle Eastern countries are just starting to lock down last week, 10 days, there are countries in Asia are emerging from their lockdowns of the economy and learning some lessons along the way, certainly in places like Korea, Singapore, and China, where they have started to reoccupy central business districts and office buildings. We're learning what that reoccupancy is going to look like. So lots of lessons, particularly for Western markets, to learn from there. Generally, tenant favorable dynamics are going to reign in the short term and longer term as landlords try to figure out exactly how to bring people back into the space, and tenants deal with making their people feel comfortable to reoccupy those buildings.
Speaking of tips, do you have any tips for occupiers that have been affected by the shutdown, or how has Savills been able to help tenants in other geographies?
Yeah, absolutely. For those who are in the knowledge and service sectors, your people are your most important asset. And so the occupiers and companies that we're talking to are trying to figure out how to help their people to be safe, remain safe, and also remain as productive as possible. So that's things like technology provisioning and making sure that they stay connected with their teams. Companies are looking for ways to minimize cash outflows. So I talked to occupiers who are reviewing their leases, looking for controllable expenses, things like gym memberships or paying for parking or extra services, after hours, HVAC. Those are all examples of charges that may be able to be carved out so that those expenses aren't hitting right now when revenues are also in question. I'd also encourage occupiers to be in contact with their landlords. That's a key relationship, and taking an attitude of we are all in this together and we're going to need each other to reemerge from this is going to give a lot of benefits down the road. And that's going to help all parties to sort through this because we really are all in this together. And as I mentioned before, I think things are going to be trending to be more tenant favorable over a long period of time, which is going to be very different in particular for some European markets where there have been very, very low vacancies at 1% or 2% in central business districts. Landlords have been able to set rent. That's going to be a different situation moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. I've been through several of these crises in Brazil, so I'm used to it. Regarding the, okay, we talked about the short term. What about long term when these office occupiers come back? Are they able to use the same configurations that they've been using? Do they have to take into account social distancing? What's next?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that certainly for the balance of 2020 and maybe for the foreseeable future, there's going to be a whole new paradigm to how we occupy space and how we interact with each other. And that's going to play out in office markets across the world as we repopulate those offices. So a lot of the occupiers that I'm talking to and those that are thinking about the future are moving toward that. How do we use space in the future? And there's going to be a few components of that. You're going to see more automation. You're going to see better cleaning. You're not going to see a wholesale redesign of offices, though. We have, for the last 20 years or so, moved to a very compact office design and a lot of shared spaces. So the way we use that space is going to be very different. You're going to see staff rotations where not all of the occupants are in the space at one time. And let's face it, all of us around the globe are participating in real time in the world's largest work from home experiment. And there's a lot of lessons that we've learned from that. There's a lot of joys that come from that working from home. I've heard of occupiers who have enjoyed having regained the time that they were previously spending commuting. And that is also going to show up in the productivity of those firms. So now that the cat is out of the bag, so to speak, we're not going to be able to put it back in. We need to work with a new set of occupant expectations moving forward.
Yeah. Lastly, I know that you're a huge Florida Gators fan. Will we ever see football played the same way that we have in the past? Are the stadiums going to have to be redesigned? Are we going to have a season? What's next?
Boy, I hope that we can all reoccupy our favorite stadiums and cheer for our teams very soon. Look, we are social creatures. We like to be around each other, particularly when we are cheering on our favorite team. I think we'll get back there, but we've got to rely on the medical heroes that are working in labs, hospitals, and doctor offices around the globe to come up with a vaccine. All right. But there's a bright future out there, Shay. I certainly believe in it. I know you do too.
All right. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thanks a lot, Jess.
Shay, it's been great being with you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.